Welcome back to the Behind the Well Show. I'm your host, Roger Abel, with Elias Randel again. Elias, we got some good comments about your worst money mistake ever.
We did. Some entertaining comments. I think people thought that was kind of funny and entertaining. And, I think, and I was talking with a friend, I think the real message of it kind of is, okay, hobbies are expensive, right? So we established that. And someone actually said to me, well, your hobby, officiating football, that sounds expensive. But he goes, Roger, his fishing hobby, I guarantee that's way more expensive than, and we talked about that on the show too. So.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to have stuff in your life other than just, your work and your career and your family. You got to have some stuff out there that's driving you in other ways, and it costs money.
I watched
that video. What it is.
I watched the video like 4 or 5 times. It was great.
Of me admitting my biggest money mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
But, I think the only video I maybe watched more, short video that we put out there is the bloopers reel Molly did a few months ago. It was a really good one, too.
Yeah, that one was funny. I'm sure we'll have another one someday.
So I started looking through the outline for today, and we've got a lot of different things we're going to talk about. But kind of the first headline here is that, and I don't know if you knew this or not. I knew this. I've known this for a long time, and I'll tell you my story about how I learned this. But women are actually better investors than men.
Yeah, I guess I think I've maybe read a couple articles about this, but did you already know this before this outline and before we read this?
I knew this from personal experience.
Okay, talk about that.
You haven't heard this story?
Maybe. Remind me.
My wife and I, we got married 2002. 2003, we built a new house and moved into this new house, and there was a company out there that were just starting, and we had just moved into this new house. 23 years old, we don't have a whole lot of money. My wife goes, I think we should invest in this thing. I'm like, with what money? So we clearly didn't invest in it. And guess what? I hear about it to this day.
Really?
I mean, it was like brand new. I don't even know what it would have been worth, but if I'd invested $1,000 in 2003, it has to be some substantial amount of money today. So I've always said my wife's a better investor than I am. But if you think about like some of the reasons why, and I'm not just going to say men are worse than women, but why do women tend to outperform the investing of men? And it really comes down to two things, in my opinion. If you think about like an investment return, Elias, you have an investment that makes 9%. Just say the S&P 500 index. And then you have what we would call an investor return. That's what investors make. And we all see the Dalbar studies every year. Dalbar does research on investor performance versus investment returns. And there's always a pretty large discrepancy between what the investment's made and what the actual investor got. And what that gap really is, it's the behavior gap. So if you have a return of 9% for the investment and the individual investor makes 6%, that 3% underperformance is typically due to behavior. And if you think about when people start getting some confidence and thinking they know a lot about investing, they do two things. They tend to overanalyze what they have, and they tend to trade more often. And I'm looking at a few studies, one's by Fidelity here. Typically, women trade less and believe they know less about investing. Basically, they're just getting out of their own way. So they're not trying to overthink this.
It's a little bit of probably an overconfidence thing, maybe thinking that you know more than what you really know.
We work with lots of clients, male, female. When was the last time a female client came in here and said, hey, I think we should change this? I think about some of my female clients I work with that are some of the best investors, and I can think of one right now. She's had this account for like 15 years. She's been retired. And let's just say it's $500,000. She takes, $20,000 a year off it. She's been doing this for 15 years. Guess what it's still worth?
$500,000.
Well, it's more than that.
Yeah, it's probably grown if she's only taking $20,000.
But there's two things. She never comes in excited when the market's down, and she never thinks we should make a bunch of changes. She literally is just sticking to like good investment behavior. Yeah, we rebalance and, we make changes in the portfolio, but she's never coming in and saying, well, we need to sell this. I can think of another female client who thinks she knows a lot and she likes to trade a lot. Well, I got a notice the other day from our broker dealer about underperformance. Only one client. That was her.
The one trading the most.
It was the one trading the most.
Isn't that kind of ironic, or it's kind of like telling? Believes it's exactly what this data
believes she has to have individual stocks, and she's driving all these investment decisions herself. She has to have individual stocks, and mutual funds don't work, and all these different things. Well, there's only one person who has underperformed their peers, and all of the clients we work with that we've been flagged on, and it's the person thinking they need to trade individual stocks, make the decisions themselves.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and the person with the most trades.
Their money. I don't, I'll help you do what I can, but it's your money. But typically, what we see is that females are averaging more return than male investors.
And so here's kind of, and you bring up a good point, and now that you talk about some of the families we work with, and I do think, because we do have a lot of female clients that most of the time, and I think it comes down to like behavioral investing versus thinking that you can outsmart the market, where I know the vast majority of our female clients, and the majority of our clients take our recommendations. That's why they're working with us. But I know kind of they're more positive to the feedback on just being a successful investor and recommendations around that. So I think the behavior, and it's almost I think it's kind of nature, a little bit, or natural. I think men probably trade more because if there's something like your account's going down, it's just you inherently think, I can do something about this.
Men think we can beat the game.
Right.
We're competitors.
Right. And we're always,
we can beat it. We're better. We can figure it out.
And there's times where you sit there, you're looking at your charts, looking at data, and you think, I'm gonna figure it out. I can figure this out through trading. And really, and all the data shows that just being a successful investor, contributing to your accounts, reinvesting your dividends, doing all the simple stuff, it works, right? But sometimes I feel like for males, like doing the simple thing, that's not good enough. For me, it needs to be more complicated. And I feel like females are more receptive to, typically, we can just simplify this. Complicated doesn't mean good.
The other night on the radio, I don't know if it was you or Jonas who brought it up, but made a good comment that the stock market doesn't really care how hard you try. Was that you?
Yeah, that's something I've been sharing with people. Like, yeah, and it's true. The market doesn't care how much research you do. Like, you're never going to be rewarded for effort in investing.
No.
Like, there's no amount of effort that you can put in that's going to reward you. I mean, truth be told, the best investors, they all kind of do the same things. Diversified portfolio, they buy good companies, hold it for a long time.
Actually, maybe what people should be looking at doing is researching investment behavior and not investments themselves to close the gap between investor return and investment return. Think about it. People only focus on the numbers. No one's out there reading Daniel Crosby's book about investor behavior and the laws of wealth and all this stuff that we talk about with people. They think it's all about finding the next best investment, the shiny mutual fund, the next ETF. They pay no attention to the behavior side of this. And if they did, they'd probably be significantly better investors, and they'd probably trade a heck of a lot less. And I don't want people to think that I don't think you can make money trading. There's probably some people who can. The challenge is, and even if you do it for a short period of time, the question is this sustainable over 5, 7, 10 years? I know people. In fact, I know somebody personally who trades options. 2 years ago, he was up 80%. Last year is down 50%. Well, guess what he has? He has a 2-year average of 15%. Is that good or bad? Depends on how he does this year. It could be negative.
There's easier ways.
I think his wife knows what the numbers are. I think she's figured out he's not making any money doing this trading. She's made comments to me. I guess said, hey, he'll have to show me how he's making a profit. But either way, like, for a short period of time. So for a year, you had a tremendous return. Well, then last year you got killed. So he's almost back to zero.
Yeah.
Was it worth the time, the effort, the energy, everything that's going into it to scratch out a few bucks? Or would your time been better off just spending time with your family, doing more at work, getting all those different things? So I just think this is great. I think that, I've known this for a long time because my wife, has pretty good intuition. Not that makes her better, but she's never, ever said we should change an investment before. Just that one. She doesn't wake up and say we need to reallocate our portfolio.
Yeah, and it's easy to fall into that trap because I do it too sometimes. I'll start looking at, there might be a stock, there might be like a sector fund or just something that's more niche-y than what I typically buy. And so I get what it feels like because you start to think, that does make sense. I'm gonna do that. But a lot of times I kind of rein myself in and I start to think of it through the lens of, would I make this recommendation to someone else, right? Like when you're managing money for other people, you're making decisions like through their perspective. Where me, it'd be easy for me to take excessive risk with my own money. It's my money. So it only hurts me if it doesn't work out.
I literally just thought about this. So this is why women are better at this. My wife never asked me what we're investing in. Do you know what she asked me?
How much or
how much are we saving?
How much are we saving?
That's it.
Yeah.
Her question is never, what do we own?
Yeah.
Well, she
probably knows that if you just save enough, it's going to work.
Yeah. Her whole world is I just want to make sure we're saving enough. She never asked what we're buying. Just, are we saving enough? How much are we saving? Which, if you just think about that general question, and she inherently doesn't know what she's doing, but she's probably, she doesn't spend any time on investing. So what she does is she knows one thing. If we save enough, it'll work out. She's not worried about what mutual fund or what investment or what stock we own. Just, are we saving enough? How simple that is.
That's too boring.
I literally, Elias, till we did this show, I've never really thought about that question she asked. It's never what we own. It's just how much we saving. And it's brilliant. And that's why they're better. Because guess what I'm concerned about? How much we're saving. But then I'm more focused on, where are we putting it? And most men, it's probably, where are we putting it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other reason that women are probably better, inherently I don't feel like women are really risk takers. I feel like us as men, we look for a shortcut or the silver bullet, like, instead of saving $6,000 a month, is there a way I could save $4,000 and get a better return? Because we want to take the two. Because we want to take the two and do our hobby with it.
Men are system skirters. Like, we're gonna try and figure out a way to game the game for sure.
Yeah, and here's one of the other things I've been thinking about, Elias. We focus on how much people should save and getting people started, but I think one of the skills of being a great investor is learning how to balance your cash flow and mastering the art of your cash flow management. Like, just in general with your household. What I mean by that is some people are better off for a short period of time saying, hey, this is my paycheck. I'm not going to worry about saving anything for 3 to 6 months. I'm only going to focus on my cash flow. Where's my money going? Being very intentional with how we spend money versus letting it just slip away. I'm horrible at just making random purchases. We went and had lunch the other day. Well, it was actually turned out to be a pretty expensive lunch.
Yeah, you were in a good mood. I got a nice gift card from you. So
you did.
That was an impulse buy.
But it turned into,
that was my gold star for the week.
It turned into a $200 lunch meeting. But that's a way, like, if people aren't saving money, I'm saving money so I can do that. But if people aren't saving money, you got to start and look at, say, okay, well, that lunch, did I really need to have that lunch? Or could I have taken that $200 and put it in my Roth IRA or put it into some kind of an investment. And if most people started looking at their cash flow that way, all of a sudden they're going to free up all of this extra money that they could start investing with, and they're really not denting their lifestyle much. They're cutting back on maybe one or two things a week that arguably, if I didn't have that lunch with you, we wouldn't have had like the good time, but would it have changed my life one way or another? No. And it wouldn't change yours one way or another either, other than, you had to take your wife out for a nice
Other than
dinner.
I have a $100 gift card to a nice restaurant now.
You
Or
get to
it's
go-
not really a nice restaurant. It's a bar that has really good food.
It's the best wings in town. And you were there yesterday, right?
Yeah, I went back.
How was the burger?
Really good.
How was the wings? You eat the wings again?
Yep.
Yeah, they're good.
Split a burger and wings with my brother. So, yeah, it was really good. I mean, so the wings are fried, sauced, and grilled. They're gonna be good. They're not gonna be bad if you do it that way.
No, anytime you like grill it after you sauced it and then you toss it again,
Yeah,
it's impossible to not be good.
Yep, they're excellent. And the other thing I'm just say with the cash flow, you don't necessarily have to have your budget down to the penny, but you do have to know how you're directing your money, and it's freeing, right? That's really what it does. It allows you for financial freedom. If you're doing all the right things, then going out to lunch on a Friday doesn't set you back. But if you have $70,000, on your mortgage and $20,000 on credit cards, and you got a HELOC or a home equity line of credit with $50,000 on it, you have all this stuff. That's when $200 at lunch sets you back, because now you can't pay your credit card bill. So you just got to be, you got to be an adult with your money. And sometimes if your cash, recently I was helping a family where their cash flow is just short, and it's a lot of things they can't control. And some of it is the wage that they make. And you might have to get a second job. Like one person in the family might have to work more to accomplish some of the goals. But that's just the reality of the situation.
So it's funny you talk about like how people can't afford just like some small things. And one of the articles I read the other day, it was talking about the one item that Americans can't afford, this common thing that happens all the time. And I'm going to we're going to try to figure this out because I don't know how this could be. But there was a survey out there, and they just said, hey, they surveyed 1,400 American car owners. And they said, how much could you afford for an out of, schedule repair in your car? 26% of Americans said they could not afford a $500 car repair bill if it broke down. Another 37% said they couldn't cover $1,000, and more than 58% said they could not cover $3,000 for car repairs. So here's what I'm trying to figure out. People can't afford to fix their car. I mean, $500 and $1,000 can't afford to fix their car, but the average car payment in America is over $700 a month. So does that mean people are buying brand new cars so they can afford? My question is, are they buying new cars because they think that's less expensive than making the car repair because they know they can budget the $700 a month better than they can budget the $1,000 or $1,500 surprise? Like, is that what's going on? Because if you can afford a $700 car payment, a $500 car repair should be absolutely nothing.
I think
to handle.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. Is it's easy to convince yourself that, well, buying a vehicle's, and you do have to have a reliable vehicle. But you can drive around town just where we live, and it doesn't matter what neighborhood you go into. There's nice vehicles in every neighborhood, regardless of the types of houses that are there. So people are not scared to go out and spend money on a car.
This is not disparaging at all, but go drive down through a trailer park or a mobile home park. Those are the lowest cost homes. Some of those cars that they're driving are more expensive than where they live.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I mean, I'm telling you, drive through there. You're going to see a new truck, new car. Like, you'd think if you're going through a mobile home park, it's going to be like $2,000 cars.
Cars like I drive, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but you own a house. So, but think about it. Like, is it just that's where they're spending their money? And, maybe it is. And I'm reading more of this article, but 20% of U.S. vehicle owners said if their car broke down and they couldn't repair it, they could potentially lose their job. So are there certain people that are saying, hey, I have to have this reliable car because this is actually a function of me getting paid, and I'll forego where I live to make sure I get paid? Because otherwise I can't figure out the rationale why I drive through the mobile home park. I'm thinking of one right now. I know someone that lives in there. There's $30,000 and $40,000 trucks, and they're living in a place that's like $25,000.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's lifestyle design.
It could be lifestyle. It could be like, hey, I want to have a nice car. It could be, but I just feel like it's backwards. And when I saw the numbers, I'm like, man, how can you afford the car payment if you can't fix it? People have to be buying new cars so they don't have to fix them.
And we both know repossessions are trending up. So the average car payment being over $700, that's most people can't afford it, or else repossessions would not be trending upward if people could actually afford that.
That goal goes to another whole can of worms. We're already seeing a regional banking crisis, right? These regional banks are under stress.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the number one lender for vehicle loans? What types of banks?
Regional banks
and credit unions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You go to if you went and pulled around, and especially like UV side by sides, all these side by sides I live in Marion, they're legal now. These are all $30,000. Everybody has a side by side. They're spending more on a side by side than their car. They're all financed. They're all financed through the credit union. What's the first thing people aren't going to pay?
That's right there, $30,000 just recreational vehicle.
I have a friend who ordered a brand new electric Polaris side-by-side.
I bet that's fun to drive.
Not a 4-seater, 2-seater. He hasn't got it yet. He's been waiting 2 years.
Well, when he gets it, I bet it's fun to drive.
They keep, he's hopefully going to find out this month. He said he was going to get it in April. Well, it's May. He hasn't got it yet. But point is, this thing is like $50,000. Now, the guy who bought this can afford it he wrote a check for it. He can afford it. But there's not that many people who can just stroke a check for $30,000 for a Polaris side-by-side. And they're everywhere. So, once again, what's the next shoe to fall? You said there's, repossessions on vehicles. Maybe that puts more stress in the banking system. They've been talking about that for like a year and a half.
Maybe there'll be increased repossessions on side-by-sides too, and you can go get one for cheap.
Well, that's what's going to happen. Everything's cyclical and, in nature. Things have gotten really hard to get. They got really expensive. What's happening now? Things are getting a little bit easier to get.
Yeah.
They're getting a little less expensive. Like, used cars are still high, but you're no longer buying a car and then selling it a year later for what you paid or more than what you paid. Those days are over. Yeah. And I've noticed also, because I watch this side-by-side market, I really want one. I just won't spend $30,000 on one. So I'm waiting to see what happens with the prices, because eventually if everybody bought these things, they can't afford them. They're going to have to sell them, or the bank's going to own them.
And you'll be ready to buy one.
I've been holding off for like 2 years. This is my year. I'm getting one this year, but I'm not buying a $30,000 one.
You gonna get an electric one or gas?
No, I don't.
Or does it matter?
I'd love an electric. I don't want to spend the money on an electric one. I'm going to get a gas one. Yeah. And it kind of goes back to what I want to use it for. I don't want to be out there and have to worry if my battery is going to be charged. So the one my buddy bought, you can buy 1 or 2 battery packages. The one battery package goes like 47 miles. One goes like 101. 47 miles, I could see myself maxing that out pretty easy.
That's all you get?
On that battery package, I believe.
47?
Yeah, I think that's what he told me. Don't quote me exactly, but it wasn't very many miles. So I'm opting for gas, but I'm really going to get it to plow snow.
To plow snow where?
My house.
What?
Yeah.
You're not just... Don't you have a snow removal service now?
I do, but here's the deal. They tear my yard up. No, I mean, they do a great job because they show up and do it, but they tear my yard up with the truck. They leave rust stains in the driveway from the blade.
Oh.
And then they load it with salt. So then the salt's on your driveway and pits out the concrete. I always used to plow my own snow. I have no problem doing that, actually, but my oldest daughter wanted to jump on the ATV when I did it. I'm like, well, this really isn't safe anymore. So then it became an issue. I've got kids running around while I'm whipping around on an ATV. If I get the side-by-side, they can just jump in the cab with me, and we can
sit there
plow together.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's some reasons
why. That's a nice fun family activity.
Elias, the other night I was on the radio with Doug, and we were talking about, how old things become new again. Like how if you keep a suit for 30 years, it'll probably be popular again.
A suit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's a time period that it's no good, and then it's like all back.
So I've noticed all the college kids, they dress like it's a mix between the 70s and the 90s now. So all that stuff is like cool again.
Well, guess what else is back?
What?
The 60-40 portfolio. 18 months ago, it was dead, and it's back, and it's back to vengeance. And, we talked about when people said it was dead, well, why was it dead? It was dead last year because it had the worst year ever on record for a 60-40 portfolio because the bond market went down at its worst year, stock market went down as well. But now people that are deploying new capital into this 60% stock, 40% bond portfolio, things kind of look pretty good. All of a sudden, you're getting 3 to 5% on the bond yields. You're buying equities that are 15-ish%, still off the all-time highs. Like, it could be a pretty nice time for a 60-40 portfolio. And I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and they've been clients of ours for 10 years. And they sold the property, so they got a big chunk of money. And they said, well, what do you think we should do to invest this? I said, well, what's kind of cool now, just based upon the framework that's out there, we can get a lot more yield and dividend income than we could a year and a half ago. If you think about a 50-50 or a 60-40 portfolio, all of a sudden 40% of your portfolio, you can go get 4 to 5% return on it. That's pretty good right out of the gate. So I think that the 60-40 portfolio is coming back, and people are going to feel good about it where they can go get a nice long-term return in it again.
Right, and the outlook for, and certainly if you have a long time horizon and a long-term perspective, I mean, the outlook for that portfolio it's good right now. Well, and I mean, even if you're, and I've talked with some people like, okay, if you want to, for new contributions, I mean, you should be buying a diversified portfolio, but like, I feel like everyone's almost bullish on the bond market. Like, if you're a more conservative investor, why not deploy new money into bonds? They've been down in value. The yields are getting better. I mean, it's a good buying opportunity.
Well, the last 35 years, this is from Wall Street Journal, the 60-40 portfolio produced average returns of 9.3% over 35 years.
And so that's really to me, that's kind of the beauty of that for people that like investing that way, that long-term 9% return. And then what was the fluctuations along the way that people buy that portfolio because their risk tolerance, right? So it facilitated a couple things for them, like a smoother ride, and they got nice returns.
Here's why it works. Because typically those two asset class returns work opposite of each other, meaning if the stock market's down, typically the bond prices will be up, right? People are fleeing to quality.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about human behavior, and we're back to this, if they just looked last year at the bond market, they'd be like, I don't want to buy bonds because they were down 14%. So if they put any type of recency bias into this equation, they'd be like, I don't want to buy bonds. Even though over 35 years, this portfolio averaged 9.3%, and that's going through 2022. So people should just give up on the recency bias, really start thinking about, what are the goals of my financial plan, which is why we use an actual planning software to figure out what asset mix is going to work best for most people. But I think the 60-40 portfolio, if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you have more of a conservative or moderate investment risk, it's kind of back, and there's probably some opportunity to get decent returns on this type of portfolio.
Yep, the old is new again. So 24 months ago you weren't supposed to be allocated this way, and now it's the outlook has changed. But that's investing, right? Things are cyclical, but to me this is there's just certain tried and true things that consistently will work over time.
So Elias, we were out when we went for lunch the other day, we had this talk. And I want you to think about, and this is kind of about just spending money in general, but we had lunch, and then I got a gift card too. And I said, hey, do I tip on the gift card? And then I said, well, do I have to tip on I used a debit card, so it gave me I had to pay an extra fee to use a debit card. I was like, do I tip on that? And you go, no. And I was talking to somebody just the other day. I'm like, tipping in this country has gotten completely out of control. I mean, I go get a coffee and they want to tip. Someone grabs something from behind the counter and puts it on the counter and it says, do you want to leave a tip? Tip is for exceptional service. It's not supposed to be to do your job.
Right. Well, at a full service restaurant, it is part of the wage, but a coffee shop.
Why is it part of the wage? Why? And I never worked in the restaurant industry, but why don't the restaurant owners just pay a real wage? And then the tip is for excellent service.
So that's a good question. I don't know how that started, but the actual minimum wage for service workers was lower than regular minimum wage. So I think I waited tables in college, I believe my hourly wage was $4.35 because you're expected, and a tip is based on your total sales, really, when you look at your tickets. So if you can average 20% tip, that's really how you make your money. So I don't actually know how that started, but I know that's the thought of most restaurants is it's part of the wage
can't
that
the
the
restaurant
workers
owner
are earning.
Can't they just increase the prices 20% and be like,
there are
tipping is only allowed here for exceptional service? Tipping's not expected. We pay our employees a living wage. We don't pay them $4 and make them get tips. Because if you think about it, that really stinks for that person. What if nobody comes in? It's not their fault if the owner of the place can't drive business, but they're getting penalized. They don't get any tips.
Correct. And I can't name them. I cannot name them off the top of my head. I do believe there are successful restaurant organizations that they charge more to make and pay better wage. And I actually think it's probably a more profitable way to run a restaurant because everyone's typically in a restaurant, you'll have some super servers, people that are really good at it. Well, they're the ones making all the tip money. But I've at least heard or talked to people about when it's structured that way where you don't have to tip because you're just paying it as part of your bill, that kind of the total level of the service and experience for the customers is better. So I think there's places that do it. Here's what I don't like right now that happens is the whole the handheld computers and then the iPads that they flip around when you're signing out, and it just
15, 18, 20, 25
well,
or
right.
zero.
So the pizza place I go to, which I'd never
Roscoe's?
Yes.
I love Roscoe's.
I don't dine in, and I do leave. I give them a cash tip every time. It's a family-owned place. The workers are exceptional in there. They have the best. I don't know where they find these high school kids, but they have the best workers. They're all nice. They're all doing their job. But the one thing I don't like is after I pay, they just flip around the screen, and I don't leave tips on the debit card. I always leave cash for a tip. I got to push a button to say no tip, which makes me feel like a jerk, even though I know I'm leaving a tip, right? No tip, and then sign and they give you the suggested ones in there, and I actually like that they do this, but they don't suggest any lower than 20%. And I've noticed more places are doing that. Instead of 15, 20, 25, it's 20, 25, 30.
30? Wait, time out. What?
Dude, that's
Come
why I'm
on.
that's...
Once again, exactly what I'm saying. This has got completely out of control.
Right. And if I'm picking up, like for me, if I'm picking up a delivery or not a delivery, I'm picking up to go, I'll tip. But I'm not going to tip like I sat there and ate at the restaurant and you brought me drinks and you brought me my food.
Yeah, because really what you're tipping is you're tipping the cook for cooking your food. But
yeah,
that's kind of his job.
Yeah. I'm just a nice guy. So I give him, I'll give him like $5 cash.
Yeah, during COVID.
If I'm in a real good mood, maybe 10. But
during COVID, I was tipping every time I did carry out, just trying to keep those places alive. But I don't know if I really want to tip. If I'm, if I go to Chick-fil-A, why am I leaving you a tip?
No, I'm not.
So I had this thought the other day,
That's
though.
not going to happen.
I think some of this is not driven by the owners of the business or the organizations. It's just driven by technology. Like, so let's just use like a payment app that a lot of places use. Well, they just want to have the way for that company to be profitable is have one standardized screen that every vendor uses versus a vendor saying, oh, I don't want to have a tip option on here. They just, like, what is it, Square? Is that the one that the people have the slider in their phone?
I think so.
I just think maybe it's the technology in general that does that, where when you just print a receipt, I don't know, it has to be something to do with the POS system, or everybody just wants to get tipped. I want to get tipped.
Yeah. So
do we get to put a line item that suggested tip for services for the year at the end of the year?
For our company?
Can we put a 30% suggested
we
service
should.
tip?
Yeah, we should.
But that's what's so crazy about it. Like, we're service workers. I'm not asking for a tip. I think it's ridiculous. But like, there's service workers out there, not in the restaurant industry. They want a tip for everything, and they don't do anything.
Yeah. So when I was when I was a bartender, so in college I waited tables, bartending. So here was my move. I would always take like 3 to 5 20s, just whatever I had in my wallet. But I always if I needed change, I'd make it from the register. So, and then as I would get tips in my tip jar when I was behind the bar, I would cash those out for bigger bills from the cash register. So like if you looked at my tip jar, you could always see like $20 bills, because I felt like people are going to think, oh, people are tipping big here, I should tip big here too. So that was one of my little scams I ran as a bartender. It's not really a scam, but I felt like it worked.
Nice. Well, with that said, I want to thank everybody for listening. If you guys have any questions you want us to answer on the show, you can go to btwellshow.com. Let us know. We look forward to everybody tuning in next time.